important. Do you recognize that sound? You know what that sound is? Morse code. Back in the 1890s, Morse code was one of the most sophisticated forms of communication. And the jobs were highly sought after. They were very prestigious jobs. There was a job opportunity listed in the newspaper for a Morse code operator. And it said to be at this particular building for an interview at 8 a.m. So the day rolled around and all these people flooded into the office, and there was lots of chatter going on. There was no receptionist, but at the reception desk there was a little sign-in sheet. And people would go and sign in, and the sign said, "Please sign in and wait to be called to the inner office." Well, this woman walked in and she signed in, she sat down, and she had not been seated very long before she got up and she walked into the inner office. Well, all the people in the waiting room were furious because they had been there so long, and somebody said, well, people like that never get anything. They never get anywhere. They're pompous and arrogant, but in the end it always comes back. Well, it wasn't very much longer before the president of the company emerged with this woman, and he said, "Thank you all so much for coming, but the job has been filled." And there was an uproar, as you can imagine. People saying, well, that's not fair. I was here at 8 o'clock. I've waited all this time, and you didn't even interview me. The president quieted everybody down, and he said, in the air when you walked in was Morse code. And the message was, if you can understand this message, come in. The job is yours. How many jobs have you missed because you didn't know the signals? When you read, and there's a courtesy copy for you today of Lipstick Jungle, read that section on nonverbal communication. Learn what the signals are so that you don't miss an opportunity. Some Swedish research scientists got together and they did an experiment. It was very interesting. They did it on fleas. Did you know that a flea can jump to 13 inches? 13 inches, a little tiny flea. That is 200 times the height of a flea. That is the equivalent of a 6-foot man jumping 900 feet. Now, what they found is we put these fleas that could jump 13 inches in a bell jar, in this jar. And the fleas, when they would jump, they would hit their heads on the top of that jar. And so an interesting thing happened. The fleas continued to jump, but they jumped just short of where they would hit their heads. So they took the top off the jar. An interesting thing happened. Now the fleas, you would think, would jump up again. But guess what? They didn't. They continued for the rest of their life cycle only to jump the distance that they had learned to jump. The good news is you are not a flea. You're not. So if you've been socialized one way to think one way, you're not a flea. You can jump as high as you like. The sky is the limit. Now, I have a great section in the book on networking, and I know because of our time restraints, we don't have time to go through this as thoroughly. One of the hardest parts for me is every time I do this program, there are things I think, oh, I gotta share that, I gotta share this, and there's never enough time. And I've added a section on negotiating that I'm gonna spend more time, but I wanna hit some of the parts about networking today, but please read the section in Lipstick Jungle to get more information from it. So many people use a networking event like we will have today right after this program is over to go around, and they'll really use it as a social opportunity, or an opportunity to pass out as many business cards as they can. Have a strategy, just like when we talked at the beginning about having goals, have a goal for every networking event. How many people in here, I'd be curious if even one, called Teresa Suri or somebody at the chamber to ask for a list of all the women who are here. Did anybody do that? No one did. What if you had called Teresa and you knew who was going to be here? And if you had, are there people here out of all these 200+ women that would be could possibly be a very valuable connection for you to make? If you go into this group, a large group like this, you can't possibly talk to 200+ women here. You can't. The average conversation only lasts 7 to 8 minutes, so do the math. In 1 hour, how many conversations can you make? It's 7 minutes apiece. 7 8s are 56. So maybe you'll talk to 8 people during that time. But if you've had no plan, you're probably going to talk to the same people that you're seated at your table. And I noticed today we've got all the U.S. Cellular together, we've got all the Craven Community College together, instead of using this opportunity to network. And if you can be more strategic about it, the better. So go in there with a networking goal. There's a good section on conversation prep, how to prepare for small talk. And a lot of people say, I just hate small talk. Nothing good ever comes out of it. Big things come out of small talk, because small talk is where we form those relationships that form the basis for the really big talk, the big business talk. Like it or not, people do business with people that they like, people that they feel a sense of connection to. Going all the way back to my time at Oxford, holding my knife and fork differently in the American style rather than the European style, set me apart. It made me not one of that group. Knowing how, you never have to compromise who you are, ever. But you can make adjustments so that you can forge relationships and get rid of some of the barriers that will cause you to be able to develop relationships with other people who will be in a position to hire you and get you into the places that you want, so you can get what you want, need, and deserve. Conversations, it's so interesting. The people that you can meet, they've done lots of studies about making connections with other people, and every person that you know has a whole network. How many people in here have ever planned a wedding? It is amazing the people that are on a wedding list alone and how people know each other. I have a daughter who's getting married next month, and she sent me the groom's family's list, and she said, Mom, I've asked his mom for the full name for this couple from Lexington, and she said, all it has is John Greeley, and Lynn hasn't given it to me. And I said, huh. And I said, what's her name? Greeley, spell it for me. I have a good friend who lives in Lexington. So I text messaged Dorothy and I said, do you know John Greeley? She wrote me back and she said, you mean Bud? He lives across the street. And they're both invited to the wedding. So, and it's amazing. We have connections in this room that we don't even know that we have. And if you can tap, if there's something that you want, my daughter Wynn, that I write about in the book, her whole career hinged on, we went to a wedding in Chile, and 4 years later she was in New York at a Carolina alumni networking event, and this woman came over and said, didn't I meet you in Chile? And they started talking, and this girl said, well, tell me what you're doing in New York, and Wynn told her, and then she told her what she wanted to do, and she said, I have a friend who works at CBS. I'm going to get you together with him. It opened a whole new door. Meet people, make connections. Don't all sit at the same table when you go places. A lot of stuff in the networking section. The rule of 3, if somebody asks you what you do or tell me about yourself, get this prepared, get it down to 6 to 10 words and to tell them what you do, whether it's in real estate or psychology. I know I've got some psychotherapists here. Whatever it is that you do, narrow it down very briefly into 6 to 10 words so you can get it out very quickly. For me, what I say when somebody asks me, I say I'm a writer and professional speaker. I've done it in a nutshell. Then if they want to talk more about it, and usually they're pretty curious, well, what do you write about or how do you do that? Then you're given 30 more seconds. So if I've got more than that 3 seconds, I'm going to tell them something unique about me, what it is I do, who I help, and how I help. So if it's a woman and she's a woman, I know I have an MPI planner here. Where's my MPI planner? I walked in with her. She may have left. Oh, there she is, over there. So I didn't talk to her for a while, but if I had known she was an event planner, I could say, well, what types of groups do you typically plan for? And that's going to shape what I say. If she says, well, I do women's groups, then I'm going to tell her all about Lipstick Jungle and how the women's program that I do. But if she says, I do banking groups, for instance, then I'm going to say, oh, that's interesting. I did training for 2 years for BB&T, and now I do professional speaking, and I'll tell her the things that I do. So I shape it. I'm going to shape my answer based on the industry, and you can do that no matter what your profession is. But think about it in advance. Again, if you just let it happen, it's probably not going to happen the way that you want it to. If you have longer than that, you might want to think about asking that person for an opportunity to go get a cup of coffee sometime. I might have said to her, well, I'd love to hear more about what you're doing, but remember how long I said the average conversation takes? 7 or 8 minutes, and we've about maxed our 7 or 8 minutes, and there are all these people here for her to meet. There's another professional speaker here today that you should meet. There are all these people here, and maybe she's done her homework and she knows who they are. I don't want to monopolize her time. I don't want her to monopolize mine either. So then I gracefully get out of the conversation and I say something like, gosh, it's so great to meet you, and I'd love to tell you more about what I do to help X, Y, and Z group, and I'd love to hear about your group. Would you like to get together for coffee later this week or next, whatever? Set a time and pick a non-threatening place like Starbucks. At the very least, get the address and phone number and do a follow-up and send an email or handwritten note, which is even more powerful. Make sure that you have business cards. There's a right way to use them and a wrong way. Passing them out to everyone is not a good way to use them. A lot of good stuff in Lipstick Jungle about using business cards appropriately. Getting out of conversations, I touched on that just a minute ago, but a lot of times when people try to get out of conversations, they'll say, well, excuse me, I'm thirsty, I'm going to go get something to drink. And the other person says, I'm thirsty too, and you got it with them, or I really need to go to the restroom, I do too. So sometimes you just have to say something like, well, it's been so great talking to you today, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to getting together with you. And then what I typically do is say, I know there's so many people here that you want to speak to, I don't want to monopolize your time. Please don't monopolize mine, but there's so many people here for you to talk to. I don't want to monopolize your time, so I'll let you go now so we can both talk and navigate our lipstick jungle, whatever. So there are graceful tips in there so that you can be powerfully polite to make the connections that you need. And then follow up. I talked about the handwritten note, the phone call, but then look for other ways to stay in touch with your network too, because that's who's going to give you what you want, need, and deserve. This is very interesting. We're starting now on the section on negotiating, but this is very interesting. Look at this, amazing. The highest paid woman CEO makes less than a third of the highest paid male CEO. That's pretty amazing. And I'll say this to my Tarzans who are here today too. When we talk about the Fortune 1000 CEOs, that's just 1,000 people. That's really just a very small percentage. There are a lot of men out there not getting what they want, need, and deserve too. So now I want to talk about how to negotiate for the salary that you ultimately want to get. So these are going to be some strategies for that. And to help make it memorable, I've got Barney Fife dressed up for the Lipstick Jungle in his little hat. And let's see what he has to say about how to help us get what we want. To nip it in the bud. Nip it. You got to nip it in the bud. Nip it. Got to nip it in the bud. Nip it. All right, so we're going to sing that in just a minute because it's so important. Say it with Barney. Nip it. Nip it. Nip it. Okay, so we're going to talk about how important it is to nip it. I'm going to give you some magic phrases for negotiating for the salary that you want. You can use this in a lot of different ways too. So if an employer offers you something, it's good business for them to get you at the cheapest value. I mean, when you go to the car to buy a car, you're going to want to pay the least amount of money that you have to pay for that car too. That's good business for the dealership. But if it's you want to get the highest value for what you're worth. So say something, if they say, well, the salary position is $33,000, and you think, the man's probably getting 45 or 50 for that same position. Use a phrase such as, that sounds a little low to me, and then nip it. Don't say anything. Remember early on when I was talking about some of the self-sabotaging things that women do, and one is that we continue to talk? Don't talk. Say, that sounds a little low to me. And then that employer will eventually speak. But if you speak first, you're going to lose. So you have to nip it in the bud. Typically, the person on the hiring position will do a couple of things. He'll make you a new offer, or she will make you a new offer. They'll ask you what it is. How much is it that you think that you should get for this? And say what the best offer would be. Everybody say this to me right now. That sounds a little low. And make sure when you say that, it sounds a little low. Not that up talk that we mentioned earlier. That sounds a little low. With your voice going up, and make sure you lower your voice a little bit too. Don't have the little girl voice. That sounds a little low. And then nip it in the bud. Nip it. Nip it in the bud. So be quiet when you do it. So execute your power with that power of the pause. In other words, the nip it. The second thing that you could say is this one. To make my job, or to make this job worth my while, I would need. And then let them know what it is that you need. It might be that you need a cell phone. It might mean that you need a car, you need transportation, you need a new computer. Whatever it is that you need, make sure that you voice that. And know going in advance what it is that you want. Know what your value is. There's some incredible websites out there. One is salary.com and the other is wageindicator.com. I mentioned those earlier. And you can actually look and see what the average salary is for a person with your education and technical skills in that particular area of the country. So if you live in Chicago versus New Bern, it will show you what southeastern North Carolina typically pays for that. Then you are equipped with that knowledge. It's okay to ask for 20% more than what the typical person is. Remember, that's an average that you're going to find on Wage Indicator. You can ask for 20% more of the salary that you're being offered, not 200%, but that 20% will give you some negotiating power. Let's practice this all together. Say, to make this job worth my time, I would need. To make this job worth my time, I would need. And then you're going to nip it in the bud. And just wait and hear what your employer has to say about what it is that you have offered. Execute your power with the power of the pause. Now, the third thing for negotiating salaries is to say this. Considering the work required to create, develop, or complete, I would need. And a lot of times your employer may say that he just doesn't have things, but you've got to make sure that they know. If it's a perpetual, maybe, do we have any software designers in here? Your employer may say, well, I just don't have the money to pay you what it is that you want or what you're asking for. There are other creative ways that you can think of. Well, I understand that you don't have it now, but if the software takes off, I would like to have some sort of compensation later, maybe a percentage of the sales, or if it sells for X amount, then I'll get that. So go in there and be prepared, and then be quiet. So everybody say this for me too: considering the work required to create, develop, complete, whatever, can we agree to? And you want to get them to agree with whatever it is that you're saying. And then nip it in the bud, make sure that you're quiet. Wait and hear what he says and give him time to think. Execute your power with the power of the pause. I'm expecting more for this job. I'm expecting more for this job. Put it back in the employer's court and then nip it in the bud. Then don't say anything else. So say together with me, I'm expecting more for this job. And then quiet. Just be perfectly quiet. Nip it in the bud. Execute your power with the power of the pause. And finally, number 5, can we work on that? Your employer may just say, or the person that you want this job with is kind of at a stalemate, but you don't want to walk away without any opportunity. Can we work on that? In other words, can we both think about what we could do to make this opportunity work for both of us? So that's a very important thing. Altogether, can we work on that? And then nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud. So execute your power with the power of the pause. Make sure that you ask for whatever it is that you want. Remember that the meek might inherit the earth, but it is not going to be in your lifetime. And above all, remember that you can get more from a talking frog than you can from a handsome prince. Thank you so much for having me today. I've enjoyed being in the lipstick jungle. Thank you.
You ready?
Yeah.
I need you to say and spell your name.
My name is Amy Wang, W-A-N-G.
And you're with?
I'm an environmental attorney with Ward & Smith.
Okay.
It's a law firm in New Bern.
You attended why? Why are you here?
A lot of the women in our firm like to get involved in women's leadership activities, and sometimes we've done them independently as our own firm, but we also like to get involved with other activities in the community, and this was a good opportunity for us to get out of the office. Jane Hyde McMurray. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What did you think of her speech?
I enjoyed her very much. It's interesting being in the legal field. It's a very male-dominated occupation, and so it was nice to have someone get on the stage and verify your own independent strength as a female professional. Sometimes we spend so much time feeling like we can't live up to everybody else, and we really do have everything that the guys do, and it was nice to hear someone else sort of validate that for us.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll grab some more as they come by.
Am I looking into the camera?
To me.
Okay.
So Jane was speaking about, I came in at the end, but she's trying to empower women to fight for what you're worth.
Yes, she is. She was a very positive motivator. We are all entrepreneur women in New Bern at this event, so I took a lot from it, just giving us basic tools, utilizing what our worth is in a workplace. So I took a lot from it.
So, how was her delivery and the way she presented her speech?
I think she's very smart, but she makes it fun. So she delivers her message in a positive way.
Great. Tell me who you are and who you're with.
My name is Rebecca Rostek. I'm with Hot Locks Salon and Wellness Spa.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Say and spell your name.
Sana Suarez, S-A-N-N-A-S-U-A-R-E-Z.
And you're with?
Hot Locks Salon and Spa.
The speaker, Jane, what did you get out of that? Tell me about her delivery and whether she was empowering.
She was extremely empowering. What I got out of it was that we as women tend to unempower ourselves by not being more assertive, by not thinking that we deserve to have more or to ask for more, or just being insecure about really the great jobs that we perform.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ready? Say and spell your name so the speaker
Juliet Rogers, Juliet-R-O-G-E-R-S.
Company you're with.
Religious Community Services.
So you came here because what were you looking for?
I'm recently becoming the what's it called? The AD, the executive director for my company, and I am trying to get some ideas on ways to be more assertive in the workforce as a woman. Did that come out at all? I mean,
Sure.
okay, all right, sorry.
So, Jane, I walked in the tail end.
Okay.
A lot of good bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of tell me how she is as a speaker.
As a speaker, she's funny. She mixes her message up so that you're not falling asleep or not losing interest. She gives you very quick topics so that you can take them back immediately and use them and put them to work at your workplace.
You're done. Thank you. Okay. Barb, I have a video, so just hold here.
Good.
Good? Say and spell your name.
Deborah Fitzgerald, DeborahFitzgerald.
And what business are you with?
Green Recycling Solutions.
Okay, so, I love the fact it's a room full of women. What did you think about the speaker?
Oh, she was excellent. Excellent. Some of the things I've been doing all wrong. All wrong. But with what she told me, I have a whole new attitude.
What's the one thing that sticks in your mind that you heard?
Zip it up and hush. Say what you want to say and then be quiet.
Perfect.
Because you know we love to talk.
Yeah, we do. Great, thank you. Talking about the speaker. You ready? Say and spell your name.
Megan McGarvey, MEGAN-MCGARVEY.
And you were with? Say it.
Carolina East Health System.
Jane.
Jane.
What do you take away from her speech today?
I am much more enthusiastic about waking up in the morning. I like the idea of the goal setting, making sure I know what I want. She was just very inspiring.
As a speaker, she's going to be using this as a promotional. How is she as a speaker? Would you hire her if you had the chance?
Oh, absolutely. She's very energetic. She's very engaging. She's not a speaker where you find your mind wandering. She keeps you there. She keeps you focused.
That's it.
All right.
What I'm wearing is becoming.
It's perfect.
Okay.
It's perfect.
Don't people do this to you all the time and you're like, just shut up and talk?
I know. It's like, look, it's my job. Ready? Say and spell your name.
ANNA Bolshevitz. BULSZEWICZ.
Or Smith.
Yeah.
And your business, what do you work in?
I am a reporter, anchor, multimedia journalist for News Channel 12 WCTI.
So when you go to an event like this, what are you hoping to get out of it?
What do I hope to get out of it? Well, first of all, I hope that people understand more of who they see on TV every day. And I genuinely enjoy speaking in front of people, and I hope that they, in turn, enjoy what I put out in person just as well. Let me redo that. Okay, so basically when I come to something like this, I want people to enjoy themselves. I want to feel like it's a private setting and there's not a television glass or screen in between us. Intimate.
Jane, who just spoke about, be quiet, talk less. What do you think about her as a speaker?
Oh, I thought she was fabulous. A lot of the things that she said I could relate to in my life as a young professional, as somebody, as a woman trying to make it. I thought the advice was awesome. The negotiation, the salary talk, the nip it in the bud, all relevant to, I think, how we operate as women in today's industry.
If somebody has a chance to go see her, what would you tell them?
Oh, I would tell them to bring a notepad and a pen, and I would tell them to pay attention.
Sweet. Thank you. Barney Fife.
Yeah, no, I was there before that. So there you go.
See? You beat me. Ready?
You tell me when you're ready.
I need you to say, spell your name and who you're with.
Mary Lou Infinito, INFINITO, with Vidant Health.
So, Jane, the speaker, trying to empower women to get what they're worth. Tell me what you thought of her as a speaker.
She did an awesome job because what she really brought to the forefront is that we are worth more than we often think we are, and gave us actual tools of how to use our knowledge about what we do and empower ourselves to get that value out in the market, whatever we're doing, and really be able to then put our whole self into it because we're feeling good about it all the way around. Not just what we're doing, but that we're getting paid and valued for what we're doing.
Did that hurt? Ready? Say and spell your name and who you are.
Hi, Gail Bisbee, Confidential Records Management.
So Gail, this speaker, empowering women. Tell me your thoughts listening to what's there. I mean, you've been a successful businesswoman. Went to the dentist, so I'm like fumbling. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. I've heard her before, heard her in a previous presentation, and our staff were involved in putting this on. She was dynamic. It would be wonderful if we could get this message out to the high school kids and to women as they grow up to come into business, but it was wonderful.
Is there one bullet point really that kind of sticks in your head?
To me, it's about being different and not fitting into what they perceive as a norm for women. I'm a woman-owned business. Out of about 980 of these types of businesses, only 5 are owned by women internationally. So it is not being afraid to break the mold, which is very good.
If she comes to, let's say, another city and people are hearing that it's going to happen, what advice would you give them to say, hey, you need to do this because?
Send everyone you can. Give them the opportunity to think outside of what their normal parameters are for thinking, but especially younger people in business, older ones as well. But I think for people in the business world now, it's so competitive that it's very important for them to hear and see someone who's thinking about motivation for themselves and how to help other people. And I think one of the chords that she hit is women can be their own worst enemy. They don't support each other as they should, and that's very important.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.